I'm SP from the GonnaGeek.com show, a weekly geek news podcast that is part of the GonnaGeek.com network. Just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other amazing geek shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
I am the Green Arrow.
The Green Arrow has entered through the front door.
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to Earth 2's last newspaper, the Starling Tribune, now broadcasting from our cozy Earth 1 shelter. I am the chief editor, the only remaining editor, SP, and your other award-winning reporters without their awards because we couldn't bring them over from Earth 2 for this episode 254 of the Starling Tribune are Chris.
Good to see you, Curtis, and your beard looks tremendous.
He did have the beard going on. Yeah, that was good. And Michelle.
Wow. Mom really liked playing fast and loose with the Fourth Amendment.
I'm like playing fast and loose with a lot of stuff when she was on OG Team Arrow, whatever.
OTA.
Original Team Arrow, OTA. This podcast is recorded on Thursday, November 14th, 2019, live on Geeks.live.
That's right, and this evening we'll be discussing the latest episode of Arrow, as well as news, interviews, articles, and announcements that have dropped in the past couple weeks that could, and let's be honest, will impact future episodes of Arrow, as well as The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and the rest of the DC universe. It's crisis time. Everything is going to be connected and impact.
If you're new to the show, thank you for searching us on out on the internet and joining us. After the show, you can check out our content at GonnaGeek.com, where you can also find other geeky videos, podcasts, and articles.
Thanks, guys. I'm just going to scratch my head a little bit. So, Laurel isn't the only refugee from Earth 2. We are also refugees from Earth 2. Why didn't the Monitor come to us to portray Oliver Queen? Because I know for a fact all three of us would have done it in a heartbeat.
Because the Monitor doesn't trust us yet, because we're part of the news media.
Oh, yeah, fake news.
Alternative facts, all that stuff. We're in that same category. The Monitor isn't sure whether he can trust us yet, but Monitor, if you're listening, trust us. We will betray Oliver Queen for you. Yes, I realize the irony in saying trust us to betray someone for you, but we'll totally do it, Hoss.
Okay, so we'll try to get in touch with the Monitor later. Anyway, thanks, guys, for the intro. Michelle, why don't you just go ahead and break down the episode that we just watched for us?
Sure thing. This episode is Present Tense at Season 8, Episode 4. It aired Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. Directed by Kristen Wendell. Credits include 5 episodes of Arrow, 1 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., 1 Flash, and 1 Legends. Written by Oscar Balderrama, who's written 20 episodes of Arrow, and Gene Wong, who's written 3 episodes of Arrow.
This episode of Present Tense aired last week with a full slate of CW shows. First one was Batwoman on Sunday, the 3rd of November, which aired its 5th episode. Mine is a Long and Sad Tale. It was an interesting episode. It got a rating of 1.16 million. Following that was Supergirl, which aired its 5th episode of the 5th season, titled Dangerous Liaisons, to a live rating of 0.78. And I have to admit, I had it on the background just to get through it. And watching Supergirl until we get to the crossover.
That bad, huh?
You know, it's not that bad, but it's just not holding my interest. We'll have to talk about that later.
That's fair.
So Black Lightning did not have an episode. So I was incorrect before. Black Lightning did not air last week. Black Lightning did air this week, though. I have not seen the latest episode. It's the only episode that I'm not caught up with. On Tuesday, the 5th of November, Flash aired the 5th episode of the 6th season, Kiss Kiss Breach Breach, to a live rating of 1.19. This seemed to me to be kind of an out-of-the-way standalone episode in the fall run towards the crossover, but I gotta admit, it did tie up some ends, and unfortunately it was the loss of a character I did not want to see lost. So hopefully Crisis can bring this character back. And then Arrow aired this episode, the 4th episode of the 8th season, present tense, to a live rating of 0.62. What is with the live? I mean, come on, guys. It's great. You should watch this. And this is when the kids meet the parents. This is all fun.
Time shifting. I mean, I'll be honest. I have not watched an episode of Arrow live in probably 3 years. I generally watch them the next day on my DVR. So since we're not factoring the live +7 or the live +3 on those ratings, I can sort of see where it would be low. There's a lot of folks, especially Tuesday night for me for some reason, where I've got other stuff I'm watching. So I just tend to forget about it and come in Wednesday and be like, Arrow's on. That's right. I can watch this episode now.
Yeah. So, because they had it on one evening. So I'm thinking, oh, I can have something on Tuesdays. And now I have something on Tuesdays that I can't get out of. So I have to watch Arrow like
time shifted.
Yep.
Well, I do have a little theory on this. So the 5th of November, and I'm guessing the live rating is North America, predominantly the United States. I don't know if they take into account Canada in the live rating or not. But the 5th of November wasn't a prime election year, but it was still the first Tuesday in November, which means it was election day. So I'm thinking some people might have been diverted to watch election results, even though it was an off year. I'm stretching here, guys. I'm stretching. Anyway, that was the ratings. We'll get into the ratings next time for the 2 weeks in advance. If you want to see all the ratings, they will be in the show notes and they will be up to date. So, Michelle, we often start talking about the episode that we're watching, which in this case is the Arrow episode, present tense. We often talk about the episode in terms of the overall theme. We relate the overall theme to the title of the episode because, let's face it, the writers do a great job of titling the episode with an overall theme. So what do you got for us this week?
Well, as William mentioned, things are tense in the present. Things are tense in the bunker. Things are tense between father and, oh my goodness, you're my son, father and daughter who is just like him. Tense because of the whole Deathstroke situation. And I mean, I loved at the end when Curtis was like, I deal with this with stress eating gummy bear. Mm-hmm. It's like, yes, please.
Sounds nice right now. Let's have that gummy bear.
Didn't William eat gummy bears at one point in time last season in the flash forwards?
I don't remember.
It's possible. I honestly don't remember either. Internets. If you're watching this show, let us know. Tweet us at Starling Tribune. If you remember that instance, correct us, please.
I mean, I know William is watching his figure because, you know, he's trying to get out there and date and that sort of thing. But I just kind of remembered like he likes them or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking way back to when he was 13. Anyway, this was an interesting episode. We were running into it at the end of last episode. Then all of a sudden, bing, we see everybody together. And I was slightly surprised at how much I was engaged in this episode. And also, I was looking at it like, oh, we're getting a standard mid-season just drama-filled thing. I mean, there was a little action. There actually was a lot of action. Yeah, what do you guys think of the episode overall? Did you like it, Michelle?
I did. I liked the return to form almost. We had Dinah being the voice of reason to Renee and to Diggle. We actually had a good Dinah Diggle conversation. I love the whole parenting advice moment between a grown William who doesn't have kids. I love that moment where he's like, yeah, kids, miracle, yeah, whatever. But he's telling Oliver, it's like, look, I wanted you to try harder. Kids want you to try harder. So learn from like what you did to me and, you know, be better to Mia. And just like this whole, it was very interesting. This whole like parent-child interaction was interesting to me.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is a very good episode for a character building standpoint. And I think you have to give kudos to Stephen Amell, who was really good this week, I thought, especially the moment he has with his son, where they're talking and you can see him getting choked up about realizing just how he's kind of failed William, how he could have been more involved. And the moment those two actors portrayed it very well, considering they'd never been on screen before that point together. And you buy into that father-son relationship, even though I imagine the actors are relatively the same age. So you're talking time-displaced son with his father, and from Oliver's perspective, he's seen his son like a year ago, and now he's seeing his son from 20 years in the future. So he's reeling between that and Mia being there, and he still has this honest, genuine moment with William. And it's nice to see, because you didn't, especially as the William arc was kind of tying up with younger William, you didn't get as many of those honest, heartfelt, genuine moments between them, because there was so much drama, relationship issues, and things like that. And I kind of also enjoyed him coming out to his father and him being like, well, we knew, and we didn't think it was a big deal. We were just waiting for you to come and say that to us. And so well done there. And the fact that Oliver Queen, no, he's not going to judge, and he loves his son. He doesn't care. It was all on his schedule. The dynamic between them, it was just fantastic this week. I really enjoyed it. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how they resolve the fact that Mia is kind of shell-shocked with the presence of her father, and seeing how those two actors portray the father-daughter relationship and try and build something up.
Out of all the relationships, I was more interested in the Mia Oliver relationship, because they're two peas in a pod, and you knew that they were going to be oil and water together. It was great watching all of that. And it was great watching them fight together too. I paid special attention to the scenes where Oliver and Mia were fighting together. That was just, but these are the two main fighting characters of their teams, and just watching them go off together for the first time as father and daughter. And the thing was that she was trained by Nyssa, so he kind of knew her general moves and could fight in synergy with her. So it all just came together.
There was that moment where she confronts him wanting to leave the bunker. She's like, I've been trained by Nyssa Al Ghul. And I kind of wanted him to have a smart ass remark of being like, well, I was Ra's al Ghul, or something like that. I mean, people tend to forget that, and I've been guilty of it from time to time too, that Oliver is a certified badass of his own. I mean, he was Ra's al Ghul. He killed Ra's al Ghul. He's done all of these things, and sometimes we just forget the experiences that he's had. Because plot sometimes, and sometimes just because there's so much of it, it's hard to remember it all, I think.
How many times has Oliver just gotten lucky in a fight?
A lot.
Yeah,
He's Oliver.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he's not necessarily that good, but if you have luck on you, it's the old sports adage. Would you prefer to be lucky, or would you prefer to be good?
Better lucky than good sometimes.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that during the first outing, with Mia, it's like, I was trained by Nyssa Al Ghul, like step aside guy. How she trusted Laurel, because she's used to the Canary Network, and that interaction that Laurel and Mia had, and Laurel's like, okay, you're wanting to kill Grant Wilson, and she's just like, what? And Laurel's like, look, girl, I was team villain. I can smell like your murderous intent from like 5 miles away. And oh, by the way, you're acting sort of like your mom. And Mia's like, my mom? And Laurel's like, yeah, Felicity wanted to kill Diaz, and I talked her out of it. And that was just an amazing scene. It was just great.
It was. I was paying attention to the dialogue there, going, oh, this is great. And okay, so they're from the future. They're coming back to the past, and nobody's really concerned about they kind of are a little bit, but nobody's really concerned about the let's not change the future sort of thing. As far as they're concerned, they're okay with changing the future when it comes right down to it, because the future sucks.
Well, I mean, they want to, because that's their way to potentially save Zoe. So my guess is something out of crisis causes the future to get reshaped in some way, shape, or form, because that's a pretty inglorious way that we saw last week for them to take out a character who was pretty highly featured.
Talking about that, though, we did see young Zoe at her father's press conference. That was very powerful, considering what happened last episode. She didn't have a speaking part, but she was right there.
I mean, and you've got to imagine Renee, how he's feeling when he finds out basically, oh, my daughter in the future has been killed by John's son. And and he even talks that fact of he's got to go home and look at his daughter and just wonder how much time do I have left with her. That I can't even imagine what that would be like, to look at someone and know, I know the way the future is, you're going to die and I don't know how to fix it and I feel completely helpless, and what do I do between now and then? And conversely, it's probably pretty terrible for Diggle to realize, where did I go wrong with my son? My son is a murderer and kills my friend's child. Arguably a kid that they should have been friends growing up.
That's where Dinah comes in with that whole, we need to be better. Mm-hmm. We've learned our worst. Now be better. And even Renee comes around because Dinah says, I will voluntarily stop training Zoe if you don't, we can do that. And Renee's just like, I can't keep her in a bubble. You've got to still train her. And when he comes to the bunker, he's just like, Diggle, we're good, because now is now.
Yep. It's powerful, and it's one of those character moments we get this week. And there's lots of character moments as people come to realizations and struggle with what's going to happen in the future. And it gives a lot of these folks a chance to shine as the series is running down. And we talk a lot about the fights and the cool stunts and choreography that goes into this, but you don't always have to have that. You can have these good character moments like we had this week, and that's okay. These are characters we've come and we've watched some of these folks on TV for 8 years now. And these character moments where you get in their head and you can see the anguish they have over something's going to happen, that's entertaining, that resonates. And I'm okay with not having a ton of fights when we get emotionally impactful things and we get to see these actors test their range a little bit and get to do something you don't see as much of. I mean, we're used to seeing these guys, oh yeah, we're going to fight, we're going to win, blah, 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 blah. Not so much of, oh my God, everything as I know it is screwed up.
Now, Chris, you are very outspoken when it comes to Laura Lance.
Yes.
And even though we kid you about Laurel being your favorite character, she's really not, or hasn't been in the past. I want to know what your take is on Laurel this episode, because I sensed that she was acting on a whole different level than we've seen before.
So I think, full disclosure, if you haven't listened to past episodes of the podcast, I was not a big fan of Earth 1 Laurel Lance. I felt that her transition to becoming Black Canary was unearned. I didn't buy it, and the character just never clicked with me. And I will admit I had my issues with Black Siren, not in the way that Black Siren was portrayed, but the way they kept really trying to push this redemption angle that felt unearned, but now sort of feels earned, especially as we've seen what she was doing on Earth 2 and things like that. This iteration of Laurel that we have now, Earth 2 Laurel, the Black Canary, or I guess Black Siren technically, I don't dislike. I'm not going to say she's my favorite character, but I find myself more interested in what's going on with the character, and I think it's a compelling plot point to see how she's struggling with the destruction of Earth 2 and how she can potentially work with Oliver to try and prevent other worlds from falling. And it'll be interesting to see the temptation that's provided by the Monitor at the end and how that shapes her going forward. This version of Laurel we have now is much more nuanced and interesting character than we had for 6.5 seasons. I mean, I will just be blunt. I did not care for Earth 1 Laurel in the way that character was handled at all.
We'd have to go back to the early seasons of Starling Tribune to get your full reactions. You were not quiet about it. You were very outspoken about it.
I didn't feel like it was earned, like I said. And this character, I feel like a lot of what's going on is earned versus editorial mandate that we have to do this with this character.
Yeah, because she's part of the original comic or whatever. But the reason I brought that up, it's interesting that you said a couple of things that you did, is because at the end we get that scene with the Monitor. I have a feeling, and it's nothing more than a feeling, of where I think this is going. But what did you guys think of that?
I think it's sorry, go ahead.
I think he's totes lying. I really do. He can't. Okay, if they're really sticking to the idea of the comic, he's totes lying, because at the end of Crisis, there's one Earth. And they keep making such a big deal that they're doing Crisis, I don't know if they're going to make it just one Earth, or are they just going to be like, okay, there's 500, now there's only 3? And in that case, maybe, but I don't know.
So pre-show, we were talking about Star Wars. Let me steal a quote from Star Wars here, or paraphrase. It could be true from a certain point of view. He can't restore Earth 2, but perhaps the Monitor is aware that when this is all said and done, it's going to collapse the multiverse down into one or a few Earths, where maybe Earth 2 is not recreated, but the elements of Earth 2 get merged into it. So she has bits and pieces. So from a certain point of view, he can bring back what she knew, but not fully. I mean, remember, from a certain point of view, Darth Vader betrayed and murdered Anakin Skywalker.
So here's my thoughts on the whole thing. Laurel's not dumb. Yes, she is missing Earth 2, but she's not dumb. She knows that the Monitor is what caused the destruction over Earth 2 through conversations with Oliver. I'm betting that she's going to take his offer, but that she's going to go back to Oliver and say, this is what the Monitor is doing, and they try to use it against him as they get closer to Crisis.
Yeah, it's too simple for it to be a matter of, oh, I'm just going to betray Oliver to get this. That's too simple. There's more nuance to this. There's multiple plays going on. They've made a point of bringing into focus that Oliver doesn't trust the Monitor, that the Monitor might be seeing his control of Oliver Queen slip a little as Oliver begins to investigate and form his own opinions. So now we're playing games to figure out who's going to be in control of who and who's going to dictate the course of events as the Crisis comes into play.
Yeah, and he has Curtis come in. We get Curtis. Yay.
Fabulous.
Yay.
And he's analyzing the fabric that Oliver has. And I love that the machine it's not exactly HAL 3000, but the letters, it's capital. You see the capital H, A, and then L, and then 3000. That's a nice, 2001
nice.
Illusion.
I missed that.
Yeah. And it was just great to see Curtis again. And there's Oliver using his assets, and we learn that we have to go to Russia. So talk about, greatest hits. We've been to the island. We've been to Hong Kong. Now we're going to Russia.
So I wonder if Anatoly gets to come back for an episode then. Have we heard anything from the spoilers or anything that...
What have we seen so far that hasn't been spoiled? Talia?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I would bet Anatoly would be coming back. Yeah. How could you have a greatest hits of Arrow in season 8 of all the previous seasons and not have Anatoly, one of the most beloved characters on this show that's not a main actor?
I hope he's there.
Me too.
I'm just going to assume he's there and be gravely disappointed if he's not there at this point, because how can you not go to... And we've gone through the whole thing with him where he's lost his Bratva connections and everything last season. So we have that, and I would understand if he wasn't there, but there's got to be something to bring him back, and maybe they actually take him with them. Like Oliver contacts him and says, look, we got to go and do this. Can you come with me? And use some sort of brother connection with him or whatever. I just see it happening, and I can't wait to see Anatoly. It's going to be fun. The only thing better, I think, would be for Chris if his beloved Deathstroke was on. I mean, like the original Deathstroke with Manu Bennett, but I just don't see that happening.
I think they could potentially play something where you have the Deathstroke suit worn by a stunt person that is a close in appearance to Manu Bennett for a battle or something like that, but I do not think we're getting Manu Bennett back in suit.
Well, that's kind of what we have with his son right now, with Grant.
Yeah. But I want the real Slade back.
Let's talk about Grant for a second. I really want to talk about Grant because I was thinking of this the whole time. Some of the things that were brought into this episode were literally from the future. The card with the message and so on and so forth. I don't think that they're necessarily Deathstroke from the future. I don't think they're Grant. I messed that up. I don't think that they're Grant Deathstroke items. I think that what happened is JJ from the future comes back. We just haven't seen him yet. and has made his play with Grant. Now, I could be completely mistaken. The whole Deathstroke thing might be over for this season, but I think we're going to see JJ again. JJ wasn't brought in just to not be seen for the rest of the season. We're going to see JJ again. I think he's in real time.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just a matter of when do they have him appear. Probably when it can be most impactful to John and Lila.
So do we have any last thoughts about the episode, SP?
Wow. The fights were good. Like I said, it was good seeing somebody in the control in the Arrow cave again. And we got to see a side-by-side control with William and with Curtis. It was great to see Curtis again. I wasn't expecting to see Curtis this episode, and just seeing him was like, oh, cool. And his excitement, which I personally don't get into, but just seeing him excited about saying, oh, my favorite part, let's suit up. And he'll let Oliver say it just because he wanted to hear Oliver say it. So he didn't try to jump in and say it on his own. I think that shows a little bit of not only respect, but a little bit of, I want to see this one last time from the guy who does it right. So yeah, this episode was full of that sort of stuff. I did like at the very end also when Mia and William were at the counter and Oliver was giving them the favorite breakfast, which I don't know. I didn't catch what that was. Waffles with sausage or something like that. I don't know.
No, it's the late night snack, waffles with ham and cheese.
Waffles with ham and cheese. So there you go. And it was great to show that with the kids. It was his one time where he's ever going to get to play dad in the kitchen. And he does like to cook, by the way. Oliver does like to cook. I don't know if Stephen Amell does or not, but Oliver Queen does like his time in the kitchen. So it was all good. It was a fun episode. I'm enjoying this. Again, was it the best episode ever? No, but it was good, especially because we didn't get a hoss in the episode.
That's true. I did miss the hosses. I guess for me, what it comes down to is this is a character building episode, like I touched on early on. When you do a character building episode and pull it off, it's really good. This was really good. This was moments of characters getting to have honest moments, realizations that things aren't going to work right, and grapple with them and figure out what to do. I like moments like that, especially when they're pulled off well. And kudos here. Some people might argue, oh, there's not a ton of stuff that went on. Filler episode. No, this isn't filler. This is moving all the pieces to the right place on the chessboard for what's going to happen coming up. I enjoyed it a lot.
I did too. I really love the Mia and Oliver interactions. It's like, okay, good. Now Mia's starting to come together, and I really like the chemistry between Mia and Oliver. I think now I can really see that, yes, she was appropriately cast as Mia.
I keep going back to the first time we saw her, which I believe was in a cage fight in the future.
Yes.
And I, at that point, did not attribute to the fact that she was Oliver's daughter at that point. I didn't think she was Mia at that time when I first saw her. But going from that point to now, she is totally Oliver Queen's daughter.
And we're going to find out if Anatoly is going to make an appearance in next week's episode, which is called Prognost, Season 8, Episode 5. It will air Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. Upon learning the key to oppose the Monitor, Oliver and team return to Russia on a mission to gather the necessary materials. Connor reunites with a figure from his past. Directed by Laura Belsley, written by Benjamin Robb and Derek A. Hughes.
Live from the Starling Tribune Earth 2 shelter on Earth 1, it's the weekly news roundup with Chief News Anchor Michelle Ely. And now, Michelle Ely.
Thank you. We have some Arrow news. We're going to start off with the fact that Emily Brett Rickards is actually going to come back and reprise her role as Felicity Smoke for the season finale of Arrow, which is expected to air on January 28, 2020. And we're going to get Joel Ninicol back as Rory Regan, a.k.a. the Ragman. He's supposed to appear in a recurring capacity. He appeared in season 5 as a recurring character, and then he like completely disappeared and had like a little cameo last season. But apparently, we're going to get him back. We're going to get the final thing about Ragman.
Nice. Maybe he's getting his powers back too.
It'll be good seeing him back because we all missed him. Like he just dropped off everywhere, and that was the time where we were dealing with the DA gone rogue at the same time, and they were stretching into another season. I really think that they were gunning towards ending the series at the end of that season, and they pushed it towards another season at that point. So yeah, I am excited to see the Ragman. I think he kind of disappeared out of nowhere. He is part of this new Team Arrow, and he should be part of it as it goes on. I can't remember of any other new Team Arrow characters that we've lost along the way that we could bring back, but maybe
Artemis, we assume died on the island.
Yeah. We also assumed Malcolm had died on the island, or let me correct that. A lot of people assumed that Malcolm died on the island. I'm pretty sure that he got off, so maybe he took Artemis with him.
It's a lot tougher for Malcolm, though. I mean, he got landmined.
He is the magician.
Yeah, good point. They can bring anyone back, and why do I say that? Because this next piece of news we found out on TV Line that Paul Blackthorne is Arrow's latest character to return for the finale encore. The question is, how? He did wrap up his run at the end of season 6. He's going to appear in multiple episodes of the Arrowverse flagship's series Farewell Run. But he's dead. So is it our character? Is it our Detective Lance / Captain Lance / Assistant Mayor Lance? Or is it from another Earth? I'm thinking another Earth because I'm not really sure how you'd resurrect him. He's been dead and gone for a while.
It'd be such a shame if he came in from another Earth and wasn't the same sort of thing. Because we've seen a lot of Wells characters over in the Flash from different Earths. And while they're fun, this is a special character. And I just don't want to see another version of him. Although it's great if that's the way they have to bring back the actor for the finale and for the last few episodes. I just think Oliver had a special bond with him. He had a special bond with Renee. He had his daughters on the show, both of his daughters, and he has a special bond now with Laurel from Earth 2. So I really miss that glue. He was the last parent from season 1 that was still on the show, and we were always joking, oh, he's gonna die in this season. I think from season 1 we're like, who's gonna die at the end? Oh yeah, it was Detective Lance. He's gone, and he's just hung on for so long. It would almost be a disservice to him and his character not to be the original, but how do you do it, right?
I have no idea. A Liberty Dude has an idea. Maybe it's just to revive Frozen Head. We could have Futurama-inspired heads. I don't know.
Maybe.
I just wanted to give credit to a comment in the chat room that made me smirk a little bit there. I don't know how they're going to do it. I want to see it happen because I enjoy Paul Blackthorne. I guess the trade-off is, from Paul Blackthorne's perspective, probably sucks that he has the free time because he picked up a new show that I guess they didn't pick up a season order on. So I'm glad he can come back to Arrow, but bummer for him that the other gig's not panning out.
Maybe the Monitor uses him to get Laurel on his side. That would be awful.
Ooh, maybe.
Especially how he went out too.
Yeah.
I mean, he died in the hospital, but before that, they had that emotional time when they were being held hostage and captive and stuff. So it'd be tough to relive that.
Yes. I don't know where they're going with it. It'll be interesting, though.
Well, one of the things we do know is that Arrow's finale will be a 2-hour event, beginning with a preview of the finale on Tuesday, January 28th at 8 p.m. with the finale itself, which is titled Fade Out, will air at 9 p.m. on the same day. So 9 p.m., January 28th, last episode of Arrow.
I wonder if they're waiting for the next announcement, and that is Kevin Smith himself will be hosting the preview for the finale episode.
He's hosting the Crisis shows, so it's possible.
I can totally see. I mean, who better for DC Comics that's a TV personality to do that?
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
No confirmation. I'm just saying it would be cool. I have no knowledge of it, by the way. I just realized the way I said it, some people might be thinking I'm breaking news. I'm not.
So here's the thing. The 0.68 rating we got for Arrow last week kind of makes me think they're not going to give it its own, like, talking Arrow spin-off thing.
No,
I could be wrong.
It's not. It wouldn't be a Talking Arrow spinoff. It would just be him coming in to say, because he's already in the studio to do Crisis. Why not bring him back to do this? I mean, he'd probably love to do it.
Yeah, maybe.
And well, because we know the finale date, we're starting to get the farewell tour, and Chris has some news about that.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of posts on social media of everyone saying, oh, it's our last day on set. But the one that really gets you a little bit that we saw, I believe it was yesterday, I can't recall. Stephen Amell shared online that he is finally done playing Oliver Queen. For the past week, we've had Arrow cast and crew members shooting for the series finale of Fade Out. Now Stephen Amell has announced he filmed his final scene for the show. He said on Twitter, words can't even begin to express what Arrow has meant to me. Best 8 years of my life. The cast and crew of the show have become my family. I'm going to miss them. I'm wrapped. And I know from a fan standpoint, a lot of excitement for this show and a lot of goodwill came from how Stephen Amell's genuine excitement came across, from how he interacted with the fans, from what he shared behind the scenes, things like that. So it's kind of one of those bittersweet moments, like, man, it's all over. This is the last time we're going to have Stephen coming on there and sharing something from his experience on the set of Arrow and giving us a sneak peek of what's going on. But kudos to him, the rest of the team, for wrapping an 8-season run, moving on to bigger things. He was already filming things like a couple days after he was done filming Arrow. He was off filming a new project. So he's already busy, but we're going to miss you as Oliver Queen, Stephen.
I was thinking this might not be his last action for the Arrow series, and I'll give you an example. In this episode alone, remember they were in the bunker. I guess everybody calls it the Arrow bunker. I call it the Arrow cave. They were in the Arrow cave, and they came out when Renee had the reveal that Zoe was dead, killed by JJ. So Diggle came out, Wild Dog came out, and then Connor came out. And I believe it was Diggle was talking to Connor, there was a train that went by overhead, and you heard it faintly, so they couldn't mute it totally out, but it was there. And then later on, you heard the train going on overhead when he was giving his press conference. I don't know if that was CGI'd in or not. I doubt it, because that would be kind of stupid to add that CGI in. I think it was just, and I don't know what kind of transit they have, public transit they have in Vancouver. I'm just going to state here, it was probably really some sort of public transit that was going on in the train overhead. My point is, what I think that they did, especially on the scene on Connor, is I think they ADR'd him. Because there's no way, all three of us, we record audio. We record audio every week as we're doing the show. We record audio for other shows that we do as well. There is no way. I mean, actually, it's kind of funny. Michelle, you live close to a train tracks, right?
Yes, I do.
So we normally try to speak over you or speak when we hear the train in your area, and you try not to talk too much when the train is in your area, because we can take that out if it's a separate track. But if you are talking while the train is there, it's in the track, and you are inside using a microphone that is meant to try to drown all of that out. They're outside and right underneath that train. I got to think that their voice was drowned out, and they had to come back in and do it via ADR later in order to get that voice in. It sounded natural. If it was a miracle of on-stage or on-site audio engineering, my congratulations are to the people that were doing all the audio for that. But I think it was done via ADR later. And my congratulations for that, too, whoever was doing the ADR, if that was the case, because it sounded natural. I think Oliver, and I've heard it before with some of his scenes, Stephen Amell will probably have to come back and do a scene or two of ADR or a line or two. So I don't think he's completely done yet, but his last scene is wrapped.
I mean, I guess they could theoretically do it via Skype or have him record it in some studio and wherever he is and then send it in too. I mean, he's probably physically done being on set in costume, barring mic work. I tend to agree with you, SP.
Well, we're going to end on some good news. Legends of Tomorrow will return at 9 p.m. on Tuesday, January 21st, following an episode of Arrow. Although details about the premiere are being kept under wraps at this time, the first episode of Legends of Tomorrow Season 5 will follow a special episode of the series tying into the upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. That special episode will air on January 14th, 2020, which is after the winter hiatus.
I'm glad they get to be part of the crossover this year. Remember last year where they said, oh, we should have been part of the crossover. It was crossover time. I forget how many statements they made about the crossover in that one episode. It was the episode about the puppets. Remember that?
And then
yes.
Then they made it again when they had the Supergirl, Arrow, and Flash costumes too, to film the commercial for the park. Brain fart.
Hey World.
Hey World. That's it.
Haywood. The episode.
There you go.
Yeah. Haywood. Haywood's the park.
There you go.
Hey World was the episode title.
That's
Haywood is
the commercial. Yeah.
Well,
and that's all we have for the news.
That being said, it's time for us to start wrapping this thing up. So a big thank you to all of the live listeners / viewers who participate in our chat room over at geeks.live. But also a thank you to everyone who downloads the audio episodes over at starlingtribune.com or catches the video replays over at youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
We talk a lot about different things going on in the universe this past week, and I want to bring it up now because I'm going to bring up our Discord server, which you can find at GonnaGeek.com/Discord. There was no new episode of Arrow this week, which I felt was kind of odd because it wasn't really on a holiday, and the election, as I alluded to earlier in the episode, was the previous Tuesday. So I was like, why is there no new episode of Arrow? And that is because, and this is my thoughts, and I haven't heard anything to sway me against it, is that the Disney Plus streaming service it launched on the Tuesday that a new episode of Arrow and the Flash would have aired. So CW decided not to play that game and to let everybody play with Disney Plus for the night, and they took the night off. And we talked all about it over on the Discord server at GonnaGeek.com/Discord. So you can come on by. You can get all the great news drops that Michelle and Chris do. I do about one a week. Every other week, I'll throw a news item in the Discord as well, depending on the many things that I'm interested in, whether it's Marvel related, whether it's DC related, podcasting related, geeky related, whatever. I'll throw a link in there as well. So you can get that at GonnaGeek.com/Discord. And remember, you can catch us live and chat with us live, as Liberty Dude is doing right now at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays.
We would love to hear from you. We are the Starling Tribune on Facebook and Instagram, at Starling Tribune on Twitter, and you can call us at 612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283. Well, this brings us to the end of another great episode. Any last words before we sign off? At Stargate Pioneer.
Hashtag Dad Snacks.
At the Chris Farrell.
Hashtag running for office, Haas.
And I am at Michelle Ely signing off with hashtag Pass the Gummy Bears. Oracle, I think we're done here.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at GonnaGeek.com or check out our archive at StarlingTribune.com. Visit GonnaGeek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at Incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.